Welcome to the subject-verb agreement lesson. Now, it is important to understand subject-verb agreement for IELTS. If you're making errors with this in your writing or speaking, it will be very noticeable as it is a very basic error. For example, take a look at this paragraph which has errors with subject-verb agreement. Some people argue that leaving people in prison for a long time mean that they will mix with other criminals and so their character will not improve. The alternative are community service. This gives an offender the opportunity to give something positive back to society and so it may improve their character. Also, the government could focus its resources on the causes of crime, which would lead to less crime in the future. So, let's talk about the basic rules. So, for a singular third person, he, she, it, in the present tense, the verb must have an S ending. So, for the singular, we say I take. Plural, we use we take. Singular, you take, also the same, you take. Singular, he, she, it takes. If it's plural, we use they take. So, example, he takes the bus to work every morning. So we have he is singular, so that's why we use takes. Plural, his family take the train, so we use take because his family is plural. Now let's talk about different formations. So different formations are used for the irregular verb to be, but an S is still used for the third person singular. So we have I am, and then for the plural, we have we are. And then for the singular and plural is the same for you are. And then he, she, it is. And then for the plural, we use they are. For the past, singular is I was. The plural is we were. And then singular and plural is the same. You were, you were. And then he, she, it was. While plural is they were. So example sentence, he was on the bus by 9 a.m. While plural, his children were on the train by 9:30 a.m. However, these are just the basic rules. There are other things that are important to understand to ensure you are using subject-verb agreement correctly in all contexts and some things that are confusing. So we'll look at some of these now. First, let's go to there is and there are. When you use there is and there is never the subject. The subject is the word that comes after the verb. Therefore, you need to look at that word to decide if the verb is singular or plural. Example, there are several reasons why we must tackle the problem of global warming. There is one main reason we must tackle global warming. What sometimes confuses people is when there are several nouns after the verb, it's common to make the mistake of using a plural verb. In fact, the verb should be around only the first noun. Now take a look at this simple example. There is a pen, some pencils, and a rubber on the table. There are pens, one pencil, and some rubbers on the table. In each of these examples, you just need to look at the first noun to decide if the subject is singular or plural. So you can ignore the ones after this. Next, let's go to separated subject. Another common mistake is when the subject is separated from the verb by a prepositional phrase, relative clause, or reduced relative clause. A mistake is to make the verb agree with the last noun in a phrase or clause rather than the subject of the sentence. So incorrect sentence, improving the situation of people in cities are very important. The correct way is improving the situation of people in cities is very important. It should not agree with cities, as this is part of the prepositional phrase. Now, here are some more examples of correct subject-verb agreement. The phrase or clause that should be ignored for purposes of agreement is in brackets. Obesity in children is a growing concern. The decision made by the country's leaders after numerous meetings was definitely the right one. And then next, the new roads which the government has built have not reduced congestion. Next, let's go to expressions of quantity. Another difficult area with subject-verb agreement is dealing with quantities. When a quantity word is followed by a prepositional phrase, it can follow the rules above. Example, the verb agrees with the subject, the quantity. Example are, one of the new teachers is from India. None of the candidates is likely to get my vote. In spoken English, the plural form is commonly used, like are likely. 5 of my friends are coming with me on holiday. However, for some quantity phrase, you don't need to refer to the noun in the prepositional phrase to decide if the verb is singular or plural. Example, we have a lot of. For singular, a lot of the meat is fresh, while the plural, a lot of the vegetables are organic. Now, for singular, all of the meat is fresh, while in the plural, all of the vegetables are organic. And then you just replace some of the meat is fresh for singular, some of the vegetables are organic for plural. And then if you use the fraction, one half or third of is one half of the room is empty, while for plural, one third of the cars on the road use unleaded fuel. Next, let's go to neither and either. With these phrases, the verb must agree with the noun that is closest to the verb. So neither the child nor her parents are at school. So are, because the nearest noun is parents. Neither the parents nor their child is at the school. Is, we use is because child is the nearest noun. Either my brother or my sisters usually help me. Here, sisters is the one closest to help. And lastly, either my sisters or my brother usually helps me because brother is the nearest to the verb. Now we go to indefinite pronouns as subjects. A common mistake is made in subject-verb agreement with indefinite pronouns, as people often assume they must take a plural verb because they refer to more than one thing. So here are some common examples of indefinite pronouns. So you have everyone, everybody, everything. So here, people mistake everyone, everybody, everything. They think it's the same as all. But when you say everyone, everybody, everything, you mean each person, each thing. And then we also have someone, somebody, something. And then anyone, anybody, anything. And then no one, nobody, nothing. So here is how we apply the subject-verb agreement rule. Everybody seems to be nervous about the exam. Something needs to be done about the increasing rate of crime. According to the news, nobody is directly responsible for the problems. Now we go to modal verbs. Modal verbs are always followed by the bare infinitive. So in this case, the third person singular no longer takes a singular verb. So it's incorrect to say he will takes the bus to work. The correct way is he will take the bus to work. And it's wrong to say it would seem that she is unwell. The correct way would be it would seem that she is unwell. Lastly, we go to gerunds. What are gerunds? These are verbs that function as nouns by adding ing. They always take a singular subject. Remember to look at the gerund, not the noun that may come between the gerund and the verb. Example, feeding the poor in developing countries is what most aid is used for. Running my businesses take up most of my time. And lastly, typing is a skill that I have not yet mastered.